The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Welcome to my Mind, Body, Spirit show. This is Dr. Rudy Cashman. This will be very interesting because I will discuss the science about how your thought process has tremendous effects on the rest of your body. Yeah. Most of medicine doesn't even realize that. Candace Pert wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion, back around 1970, 1970. And during my practice of neurosurgery, I got a hold of this book, and I tell you, it changed my life. I looked at patients totally different. I was used to looking at them in terms of mammograms, CTs, eventually MRI scans, when the much more important thing really was what was going in our body, that our thought process could affect our muscles, our heart, our GI tract, our skin, to how we think, and that our GI tract, that our liver, that our heart in turn could speak to the brain. So it was brain, body, body-brain connections. That's really going on in your life every day, all day long. So I want to explain the science. This is scientific, and I will explain the science to you. The science really started, the proof was really discovered by Candace Pert, who was at the National Institute of Health, 1969, 1970, doing experiments in a man's society, okay? Very few women working there. And she was looking through the highly magnified microscope, electron microscope, where she's looking at some single cells, nano size, extremely small size, and she saw that the cells had on them receptors, little fingers sticking up, There are thousands of these receptors all over your body on every cell, and they're wiggling and scrolling around and dancing, and she realized the chemicals in your body, or the chemicals that you're taking in, have their effect on your cells by touching these receptors, which send the message into the cell. She realized, though, what she was seeing, she should have gotten the Nobel Prize for Medicine, but her boss wanted it and didn't put her name on the prize. But she knew that if she didn't sign off, she'd done the experiments, he wouldn't get the prize, and that's exactly what happened. Then about 3 years later, a Scottish team discovered the endorphins, the neuropeptides, hormones, neurotransmitters that make us feel good. Some exercise or a hug. Or my pets give me a hug in the morning, and they're feeling their serotonin, their dopamine. That's making them feel good. Makes me feel good too. She discovered the science of that. So let's go on this trip and teach you this in more detail. Okay? Over half the people who go to see a medical doctor have disorders well within the range of the body's own healing power. That's never scientifically well discussed, even in medical schools today. Sort of shameful that it's not, because half the people go see a doctor, it's the stress in their life or the happiness in their life. It's something that's going on, and these hormones, 50 of them, neurotransmitters, millions, trillions, and neuropeptides, maybe a few hundred, are playing the music in your body, and they're looking at the x-rays. So they don't see this. So people came to see me. I would always say, what's going on in your life? I want to know, how many children do you have? Anything stressful happen? Are we having financial problems? Is any abuse going on in your house? Yes, I want to know what's going on in your life. Then you're more likely to get an accurate diagnosis, okay? So society's most valuable healer knows how to recognize patients who can get well without heroic intervention, surgeries, narcotics, pills, injections, who understands what's really going on. At least 50% of the people, in my experience, and I practice medicine, still do today. I don't do neurosurgery, but I see people to teach them wellness, for example. So I've been over 50 years, okay? So, but I understand this. And sometimes patients are shocked because the previous guy they saw just handed them x-ray, and the patient believes they are their x-ray, when actually they are themselves. You're not your x-ray, okay? So a valuable provider is one who can teach the patient how to heal themselves. So let's tell you, what's the difference between disease and illness, okay? Disease is a disorder verified by diagnostics, by x-rays. You see a tumor. And illness is perception. You think that there's something going on your neck, something broken or a ruptured disc, when in reality it's the chemicals in your body that are causing symptoms. They're real. I didn't say they're real. They're real, but they're extremely small. And it's the intermixtion, the rainbow of interaction of all these hormones, neurotransmitters, and neuropeptides determine how you feel. This is true. So you can experience illness without a disease. You can have a neck pain, low back pain, a headache, but we do x-rays on you, and we don't find a lump or anything, or a ruptured disc or a cancer or anything. Okay, we say x-rays are normal. That does not mean that you are normal, okay? Because these three things I mentioned to you already are actually truly causing a real thing, a real illness. So keep an open mind, but not so open your brain falls out. This is reality, though. And like I said, most providers have no idea this exists. It's not regularly taught in the medical school. A lot of PAs and nurses and dentists and even hairstylists need to know about this to determine what you may be feeling like because something happened in your life. So let's go through the evolving understanding of the disease and illness. Ancient Greeks, we're talking about thousands of years ago, believed the mind and body were connected. Yeah, they coined the word holus. That's where holistic came from. The Greeks had the word, okay? So it wasn't just a disease, organ, or a body part. And how to treat it at that time. We didn't have x-rays or chemical studies. So they invented evil spirits caused disease by entering your body. That's what their perception of it was, because you were having real symptoms, okay? During the Dark Ages, further on, up to about year 1200 or so, 1000 maybe. So people believed disease was God's punishment for sin. You did something wrong, you developed a disease. That was your reward, okay? Only penitence, prayer, good works would restore the body to wellness. That's how medicine was practiced years ago. Faith and healing, the church, for example. And it did help some people. And you know the science now, because if you believe it, okay, it can cause secretion of hormones, neurotransmitters, and neuropeptides, hit real receptors, make you well. Didn't work in every case, but worked in a lot of cases. So belief is important, okay? So the next, this is a very interesting man I want you to listen to, René Descartes. René Descartes, that the body didn't require the mind to operate. Of course, he was wrong. But he did that so that he could do autopsies on the body. The brain belonged to the church, the body to science. And in Italy and in Venice, they started autopsies. Before that, they were hidden. They could do an autopsy, and then they had to worry about people from the church coming in, and they used to flush the body down a river. That's how it was carried out in Italy for many years. But when you separate the brain to the church, the body to science, for 300 years, we've been practicing this type of medicine. Finally, just in the last few years, some people, providers, especially women, they're more intuitive, begin to realize that the brain and the body indeed are connected. That we are not just our CT, we are not just our MRI scan, we are not just our chemistry. There's more to it than that. So if Descartes were here today, he would scream, "Where's the holistic medicine?" And being intellectually honest, he would say, "Don't listen to any man over 300 years old," because I at least connected the head back on the body. And many other people have too. And it needs to be taught at the medical school level. Why? Because at least half the patients have a mind, body, spirit illness. Their thought process, the activity in their gut, indeed are related and connected. So René Descartes, 1637, I have a picture of him right here. I have a picture of him right here. Very famous, very famous. The Europeans have a habit of saving some body part of famous people, okay? Like Galileo, they saved his finger. It's in the Galileo Museum in Florence. I've been there, I've seen it, okay? But René Descartes, they saved his head, his brain, his skull, and actually, the skull is in a museum in Paris. I've seen it, okay? And just like they saved Galileo's finger, which is used to be the Science Museum, but now it's called the Galileo Museum in France, when the church forgave him they apologized to him because he was right. The earth was not the center of the universe. But at the same time, they actually also apologized to René Descartes. It was the paper. Just not many people know it. And he was used to live outside Paris because he feared for his life. But now his skull is back in Paris in a museum. So a famous quote came from René Descartes, as I think, therefore I am. Well, think about it. Okay. It makes sense, doesn't it? Your thought process is who you are. Okay? As a result of this, all these patients I was treating, I was reading about it, that I put together what's called the Mind-Body Index. Mind-Body Index. You can get a free copy from me at the Three Rivers Pharmacy, where I see people for free on Fridays. You can pick a copy up there. And if you see that there's a graph there, different colors, the difference, it's perception of stress. And it's different in men and women. Women are more stressful because different hormones, okay? And so there are a number of illnesses which I do think are mind-body type illnesses, but it can be also obviously something else going on. So you have to be open-minded and be a understanding provider. What can the mind affect in our body? The bowel, for example. 75% of our long-term feel-good hormone, serotonin, is made in your gut. Yeah, made in your gut. So what you eat, for example, could affect that. Also, the gut is connected with the nerves, autonomic nervous system, regular nerves, and hormones and neurotransmitters, neuropeptides that secreted can affect your gut. So they're interrelated. Fibromyalgia, where people came to see me with neck pain, low back pain, no pain down the arm or legs, anything. A significant number of those indeed was mind, body, spirit illness, okay? And if you took the history of what's going on in your life, a lot of times they did, but many of them today still go to providers and they do a CT or MRI, and MRIs are so detailed to the point it shows the process of aging, which is not a disease, or I wouldn't be around, okay? At age 39, for the 44th time, you see my point, that you are not your X-ray. Important to remember that, okay? Some cancers are due to stress because stress makes us eat more, for example, and we get type 2 diabetes, which has quite a bit of cancer attached to it. Okay, so you can, and a lot of people smoke because they're stressed. They drink alcohol because they're stressed. All breast cancer it can be stress related. Alcohol, cigarettes, stress eating, all lead to breast cancer. So it can be breast cancer, depression, anger, feeling down all the time. Chest pain, 75% of chest pain is due to stress. Okay, I'm not going to go through every one of these illnesses, but that's the start of them. Chronic pain, a lot of times, can be due to that. And we take opioids to try to relieve them, or antacids, which can cause bleeding, can even kill you. So the mind is connected to the human body, and I want to understand that, to keep that in mind. And it's very difficult many times to find a provider who understands that. So the concept of physical health, how you feel, is integrated with the mind or psyche, evolved with the work of Charcot, 1860. He brought that up, but mainly Sigmund Freud, around 1890. You know, he lived in Germany. He considered that the mind indeed had to do with our health. Then Franz Alexander published a book called Psychosomatic Medicine, 1950 or so, and I read that. I noticed at the end of, he is listing the illnesses that stress can cause, just like my index. And at the end, I noticed he puts down tattooing. I read that, and that's very interesting. So something that isn't taught either. Not everybody tattoos is a stressed out person. It's getting so popular today. But if you see tattoos all over the body, you wonder, because a needle puncture or for the touch or whatever they put on your body, it secretes endorphins. It makes you feel good. So I think some people go in there because this constant touching of your skin affects neurotransmitters and hormones and neuropeptides. And I noticed in the field, whenever my partners were operating on somebody, I see them in the operating room upside down, and I see tattoos all over. And then I make rounds on them afterwards. Maybe I was on call. I found a lot of these people were narcotics. I saw it day after day. Not everyone with tattoos is on narcotics. No, especially the small decorative ones. Those people aren't. So, and it's getting so much more popular. But say 20 years ago, almost every one of them was a narcotic. Even today, these are the people that drink more alcohol, they smoke more. This is a judgment-free zone. I'm just pointing something out which I noticed. I think it should be passed on. So during the latter half of the 20th century, the work of George Engel, Herb Benson, and others linked science to the psychological aspect of illness. So something, this has been evolving. But I'm sad today to say, very little of this is taught at the medical school level. I try to penetrate that. I give a talk occasionally, but the average medical school student has no living idea what I'm talking about. And since it's half of your illnesses, I do think they ought to know. How do you spell wake up? This avoids a lot of unnecessary procedures, a lot of unnecessary medication. So the most compelling research on the body-mind link evolved from Georgetown University professor Candace Pert. She's the one that was at NIH, eventually went to Georgetown, where I took my neurosurgery training. Years later, I did meet her once. She's not alive today, but her book, Molecules of Motion, is a wonderful book. She wrote one other book. I wrote one after that, Welcome to Your Mind Body, which has most of her work in there. It's on Amazon. You get to know this connection because stress is in every family. Life is not like this. Life is for all of us, including mine, okay? People come and go, and people die, and there are problems in every family. Stress is in every family. So to learn how to handle it is important. And so she's the one who discovered the receptors, which we mentioned to you already. And the connectors that hit these receptors are called ligands, ligands. And they're hormones, estrogen, testosterone, many more, 50. Remember 50? Neurotransmitters, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, dopamine, histamine, GABA, serotonin, neurotransmitter, trillions. Your body is trillions. That's the axon nerve. Then comes the dendrite, and these transmitters jump across. They send the message along. That's how it works. And then we talk about peptides, oxytocin, insulin, prolactin. They've discovered maybe 150, but we think there's around 300. I'm going to hold up for you another picture here. The ligand, the connector, hormones, and receptor system. Remember I told you, here's a cell, the wiggling receptors Kenneth Burt saw. But this is really what it actually looks like. This is really what it actually looks at. If you look on your left there, in the middle is a nucleus, that's the DNA. And the things sticking up there are the receptors, and the little things hitting the receptors are the connectors, okay? So it's a lock and key, okay? That's how our body works. It's occurring in you right now, okay? So the ligands, the hormones, the neurotransmitters, peptides, are the keys that bind the receptors to form a second nervous system, the ligand receptor system. Okay, so you're not just your brain and the nerves themselves, you're actually the chemistry of your body. And there's some debate about what's bigger, the actual nerves or your chemistry. Kenneth Burt thinks around 70% of the messages that you feel are due to the chemicals, neurotransmitters, hormones in your body versus the actual nerves themselves. Kind of interesting. So I don't think the debate is over as to the percent this plays in your body. So the brain is the controlling center of the nervous system. It's the computer, okay? And your intellect. But it's not the singular site of your psyche. Mm-hmm. Your psyche is here, but it's all over your body. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all over your body. That's why just today I had a massage of a neck while someone's giving me a haircut. And man, boy, did I feel relaxed. I feel so much better. I think I need to get more massages. But I'm sure it's related to, stress of the upcoming show or stress of life. So your mind is not just in your brain, it's also in your body, okay? And so if you have a chance, read a book, Molecules of Emotion. And so the immune system is also involved. Your Army, Navy, and Air Force that defends your body, the T cells, for example, that defend your lymphatic system. Also, she found monocytes, makes a lot of these neurotransmitters and neuropeptides, and they speak back to your body also. So it's brain, body, mind. And remember, your defense system is all over your body, concentrated in certain areas. So being happy, sad, or excited is transmitted throughout the body by information molecules. That's why after taking a walk, you feel so good, because good neuropeptides, hormones, dopamine, serotonin, are released in your body, and it's hitting receptors throughout your body. Your endorphins, they're real. Your feel-good hormones So our immune system can learn. The brain speaks to the body and can affect the immunity. So through good habits, for example, and music and dancing and walking and hugging and feeling good can affect the whole body. And it's real. It's not you're thinking it, actual chemistry going on. Or the other way, if you don't think positive at all, you can become depressed and travel down here. And that's the problem with most addicts. I don't blame them. They don't want to be this way. They're traveling down here. They just don't feel good. And all of us like to have a day where we're feeling good, okay? Maybe some laughter. Maybe I take a walk in nature every morning. Fortunately, I have the time now. I may sing a song. When the birds are out, they may sing back. And I look at the leaves. I look at the trees. And that makes me feel good. And so the immune system can be altered by conscious intervention. What's conscious intervention? It's my speaking to the birds. The cardinal will tweet at me and I'll tweet back. And the deer come by and stop. They look at me about 20 feet away because I feed them some. So we're friends. They wiggle their ears. We're speaking to each other. They don't say good morning or sing me a song, but they wiggle their ears and they pick up my friendship. Okay, so treat others as you would like to be treated. And so peptides are the sheet music containing the notes, the phrases, the rhythms, and harmony that allow your body, the orchestra, to play the music. The music is your emotions. Okay, here's a picture of André Rieu in Europe, the most famous musician in Europe. I met him once in Fort Wayne. He speaks German like I do too, although he speaks 6 other languages. We became friends, and I visited him in Europe a number of times. He has a beautiful orchestra, and it makes people feel better. At his, when he gives a presentation, people dance in the aisles. I've done it. They dance in the aisles. Yeah. I mean, you think, can you imagine the endorphins that are flowing in someone's body that is there? So P&I is psychoneuroimmunology. Psychoimmunology. That's your Army, Navy, and Air Force. They study that. So every neuropeptide known to exist in the brain and spinal cord exists on the surface of every white blood cell, the monocytes. So remember, the brain makes them, but your monocytes make them too. So monocytes manufacture neuropeptides that communicate with the body and the brain, influence emotions and immunity. So it's mind, body, body, mind. Your mind and body are one. Hardly anybody in medicine knows that. People don't know that. But this is the way medicine should be practiced. And I saw that in my neurosurgery practice for over 35 years. Wrote books about it, had TV shows and radio shows. And I wouldn't say everyone even appreciated that I did this. Patients did. Maybe the pharmaceutical companies didn't appreciate it, okay? So the breath, breathing, okay? You can do breathing techniques, relaxation techniques, and change the secretion of hormones, neuropeptides, neurotransmitters through breathing, It's the exchange of oxygen and CO2. So the breath is the link between the body and the mind, between the conscious and unconscious mind. It's the master key to the control of emotions and to operations of the autonomic nervous system, where you have the sympathetic, the stressor, the parasympathetic, the relaxer. They all work with hormones and neurotransmitters. So by changing the breathing techniques, by breathing rapidly or slowing breathing down, you can affect the secretion of these neurotransmitters and hormones. Mm-hmm. So breathing can alter the neurorespiratory and digestive peptides. That's why they call the gut the second brain, because it's very dense in peptide receptors. You can change the way you think and feel through change in your breathing techniques, like meditation. You've heard of that, where you don't think of the past, you don't think of the future. you live in the present moment, and your mind will not become quiet. Think of a word and do a mantra. Mantra means mind energy. Pick a word that means something good to you. God, 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 or Dev Ano, Amo, that's a very famous one, or the name of one of your children or your husband. A favorite word, and keep on repeating it, repeating. This will quiet your mind. It will lower your blood pressure. A good one to do if you're stressed out. So by breathing deeply, rapidly, or holding your breath, you can alter your pulmonary peptides and communicate with your neurotransmitters, hormones, and neuropeptides by breathing. And the most concentration of these neurotransmitters, hormones, is around the periaqueductal gray, PAG, that's in the spinal cord and brain stem at the base of your brain, the spinal cord. There's a little canal that goes through there, but spinal fluid, just surrounding that canal is a high concentration of these chemicals. And you can directly affect them through breathing techniques. Like I said already, breathing deeply, rapidly, holding your breath, you can bring them out and have them enter your body. And you can also reduce fear, pain, or change moods through proper breathing. The voluntary can reprogram the involuntary. Beliefs can become reality. How's that? Your thought process. If you believe it, it's going to cause effects in the chemistry of your body. It can affect your life. So how does the body communicate? How does the body communicate? We have the central nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord. We have the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic, parasympathetic. The tiger is running at you. That gets the sympathetic nervous system going. Your blood pressure goes up. Your gut slows down. The blood sugar goes up. The fats in your blood go up. Your bladder quits working. Your gut shuts down. And the tiger, that's acute stress. The tiger either kills you or not. It's over like that. So if you live through it, probably it won't affect you. But chronic stress, where it keeps on secreting every day, can cause diseases, okay? So with the autonomic, and the parasympathetic is a relaxer, okay? By breathing slowly, acupuncture, for example, can get the parasympathetic nervous system working and relaxes you, okay? So Kenneth Pert thought that perhaps the ligand receptor system is 60 to 80% of what you're feeling, experiencing. Another person might say 20%. I think 50, around there, probably is correct, because at least half the diseases are due to mind-body connection. They're not, that your illness is not the X-ray, okay? But it's real. It's not imaginary, okay? And so the communicating system of the brain and the body is complex. You need to be going to a healthcare provider. It could be a nurse, male or female. Could be a doctor. Could be a specialist. But you got to remember, if they're specializing in this one procedure, what's the most likely thing going to do? Lead you to the procedure. I lived in that system. I'm familiar with that. I did do a lot of surgery about a lot of people. I taught relaxation techniques, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So the brain speaks to the body through the impulses, the nerve impulses, but through hormones, through neuropeptides. It's very complex. And we spoke about the sympathetic, the ANS. Those nerves are located in the thoracic and lumbar area. Parasympathetic hormones are located in the cranial and more the sacral area. And they secrete their own hormones, their own neuropeptides. So body-mind, an individual can, through attitude and actions, regulate the biochemistry and physiology of the mind and the body. Candace Pert, in her book, Molecules of Emotion. Also, the chemistry of your body will determine what you eat. How you feel determines the type of food you seek. If you're stressed all the time, you're going to be looking for sugary products. Even I come home tonight and there's a donut laying there, which I don't allow in the house, but it could be there. If it's there, I guarantee you, I'll be eating it. Because I had a little bit of a stressful day, okay? And because I feel better immediately, okay? Since I generally good health habits, I'll probably get away with it. But many people do this all day long, and they slowly become big, and then they develop diabetes, and they die 30 years before their time. I see it all the time. And so emotions, how you feel, are stored in the molecules, exist throughout your body, especially your brain, heart, and gut. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're stored everywhere in your body. That's why a massage can make you feel better right away, because we're causing these hormones and neuropeptides to move on. So there may be other communicating pathways. You've heard about like the acupuncture, the meridian system. When acupuncture, they feel the centers of hormones and neurotransmitters. And if you go back in Indian culture, you know, they talk about chakras, where they have the one on top of your head, forehead here, one in the heart chakra, belly chakra, sacral chakra. And that's never been scientifically proven, but people who have acupuncture done a lot of times feel better. What's my response to that? Well, I think probably what it is that because you believe it, the placebo, as long as you believe it, that it's working 70% of the time, it works. So is it imaginary? Is it fake? No, it's real. Because you believe it, this secreted real neurotransmitters and hormones and made you well. Fascinating. It's real. It's not a fraud. I like acupuncture. Better than getting a needle, a narcotic, or an operation you don't need. Okay? So I agree with that. Within reason. So they're good treatments for some of the conditions where a pill or surgery or an injection could be avoided. So you hear about prana yoga, where you're thinking, and nadis are these pressure points, for example. Chakras is what I told you about. You'll hear this spoken about, and it has value. It has value. Half the patients is what they need. Okay? So understand that. So the fight or flight response, stress. Stress is the perception of a physical or psychological threat, being ill-prepared for it. Fight or flight response results in your body release of stress hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline. Chronic stress results in mind-body illnesses. It's real, okay? Not a pretty picture. So tension is the result of a lack of modern society. Depression is repressed anger or hostility. People who just can't feel good is because not enough serotonin is secreted in their body. So can they, through exercise or singing or massage or many other modalities I'll be speaking about, solve this problem? And some people it can. But some people are so severely depressed they need medication. Some people need medication. But medication has side effects. So you have to be going to a good provider before that's done. And try to avoid the things that may cause you depressed, like taking narcotics all the time, for example. And so what are a couple of syndromes? Remember we talked about before, fibromyalgia, neck pain, low back pain, headaches. Half of headaches are probably due to a neurotransmitter problem and not a migraine. Although some people think 90% of headaches are migraines. I think it's probably 50% or so. A lot of chronic pain problems are due to stress of life, but it gets more complex. You walk to the dental office and they give you 50 pills, 50 narcotic pills, and you needed only 10. Then you take the rest and turn into an addict. That's a common story. Common story. And I'm just talking about dentists. It could be any provider. Be very careful taking narcotics. Matter of fact, narcotics to me, unless you're very clear-cut, cancer, for example, but not all cancer patients. I know 2 cancer patients that survived the cancer, and you know what? They died from narcotics. Mm-hmm. Didn't wake up. Yeah. So you got to be very careful with narcs. Very careful. And I have a pain in my shoulder occasionally. I take Advil for 3 days. Say 2 weeks. No, 3 days. My pain's gone every time. I've done it 10 times. So when they say, you got to take it for 2 weeks, I'm not so sure. Okay? A good massage, a little exercise has value. Now here's a real problem. I'm going to bring this up, and to me this means a lot. MRI doctors, magnetic resonance imaging doctors. It's a problem because they'll order this MRI. I knew a group that worked very close to our group actually. They would not see a patient unless they had an MRI already. Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Because when half the people or higher this specialty, actually they had higher rates of people with stress problems, maybe 90%, that they could talk to them and determine through history what the problem was and get the MRI down the line if they just didn't get better. So placebo means I believe, okay? And as long as the patient believes that you're going to get better, in this country, pharmaceutical companies have stopped us from making placebos legal. You can't prescribe a placebo in this country. In Europe, you can't. The beautiful colors, they're a little bigger. As long as you believe it, it can work. In this country, you can't do that. We hand them narcs instead. Sad, sad, sad. Nocebo. You know what that word means? Rarely a meter provider knows what that word means. It's in the English dictionary. It's the opposite to the placebo. Actually, I wrote a book, Nocebo, Placebo's Evil Twin. It's negative speak. If I show you an MRI and you're, say, 30 years old and you got 4 kids and your husband left and you got a poor job and you're just crushed with stress and you come in to see me with neck pain like I saw recently a couple of years ago in my Van Wert clinic. A lady came to see me with black clothes on and someone else was going to operate her neck. So I took history. I said, what's going on in your life? And she told me this history of the kids and no job and a horrible situation. And I spent 1 hour with her, 1 hour with her. And I was a second opinion. I said, I don't think that you need the surgery. I think the x-rays were a nocebo to you. You believe it because you're feeling bad. I felt she needed surgery. I had no idea what happened to her. 2 years later, I'm sitting in my office, and I've always felt we humans getting close to there's some electromagnetic energy, neurotransmitter energy coming, hormones between people. I didn't even look at her chart. And I don't remember faces that easily. There's a lady sitting there. I looked at her. She had on remember I said black dress? She had on a yellow blouse, red dress, nice shoes on, nice hair. And she had done one other thing I want to mention. When I saw that time, she went like this. She said, and what I saw was tendons and bone with a small cut on all knuckles. Yeah. Man, that confused me. So I looked it up on the internet, and it's a form of cutting. My kids are driving me crazy. Makes perfect sense. The lady had that too. So anyway, so I'm looking over there. I see the beautifully dressed lady. Never looked at the chart. And I said to her, are you the lady? She says, yes, Dr. Cashman. I came in here to thank you. Never had the surgery. And I think the reason she didn't, probably only saw once, is I spent an hour with her. And I gave her names of books and DVDs and some of my TV shows to watch, because I've been on Access, puts these on YouTube for me, and she watched some of the shows. She became educated. She participated in her health care. Isn't that interesting? So what do we have in medicine? A lot of engineers of the human body. We need mind-body doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, dentists. We need them. So what Herb Benson from Harvard, who I visited one time, I went to see him actually, I wrote a book called The Relaxation Response. So what is it? When the mind is focused, whether through meditation, remember meditation, no past, no future, you live in the present moment, maybe you say a mantra, through meditation or other repetitive mental activities, the body responds with a dramatic decrease in heart rate, breathing rate, blood pressure, metabolic rate, the exact opposite of the fight or flight response. So that's the parasympathetic response. That's a relaxation response. So in life, you can always sit down and do that. Breathe deeply, slowly, or you can do it rapidly. Maybe in the morning, have a little place in the house that's yours. That's why I meditate. That's why I do a little yoga. That's why I do a little breathing. Very relaxing. When I practiced full-time neurosurgery, I used to do it because my blood pressure was up a little bit, although normal weight and all that. I didn't understand that. It was stress. Because now that I'm not doing the surgery anymore, it never seems to be up. So I did some deep breathing in the morning. That brought it down every time. So pick a quiet environment, comfortable position. That's not critical, but it could be an important part of it. Relax. And you can dial up anywhere. Maybe visualize that. I visualize I'm taking a walk and singing to the birds, which I do. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. So I sing to the birds. And oh, what a wonderful world, whatever. So that results in you feeling more relaxed, and it's chemical change occurring in your body. You can, if you can't quiet your mind, use the mantra. Remember I said a word. It can be a prayer or a focus or an object or a passive attitude. And so after something that helps too, after you relax a little bit, visualize a good outcome that you wish to have. Visualization speaks to your mind. Mm-hmm. Just the famous golfers in the world, they visualize the shot. But it works for relaxation too. Visualize, maybe take a yoga position, for example, and visualize you walking along the beach, for example. Rewire your thoughts. That's how you get rid of stress. Remember, we all get stressed. We all do, okay? So placebo, nocebo, I explained this to you already, and I wanted you to understand the difference. And so to learn the placebo effect, very important. Placebo, I shall please, works 70% of the time with 30-50% patient improvement. Mm-hmm. So how you speak to a person can greatly affect how they do. You find a real stressed out person, maybe a hug, maybe listening, maybe humming a tune, whatever, will change the attitude. But it's real science, okay? And especially since you can avoid a lot of injections, for example, or even the placebo. I tell you, I used to do it in spinal taps. They hurt a little bit. And before MRI, we had to do a myelogram on the patient for back trouble all the time. And what I would do, and I'd done a lot of them, so I was good at it. And occasionally, you don't hit it first stick, but one stick, most people can stand. I used to have people sit up for it. That makes the spinal column a little bigger. And I would say to them, I'm going to numb you now, okay? Actually, I was sticking them with a spinal nail. You know what? People kept right on laughing. Then they'd say to me, Doctor, when are you going to do a spinal tap? I said, oh, I'm already done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that worked for me a lot. So I didn't have to stick them twice. They were relaxed because when they're moving, it's harder to hit the spinal. And it was the nocebo, the placebo of what I was saying. Or I might tell a joke or something relaxing, and occasionally I even play music. And I play music actually during surgery, and which may be a surprise to you, is that they have found that patients under anesthesia can hear the music. I suspect not all of them do. I proved it once to myself. I wasn't sure I believed that or not, because when I walked into the operating room, somebody was telling a joke, which I didn't appreciate. Not that I wouldn't laugh anyway. And I told them, I said, that shouldn't be told in the operating room, because a lot of people there could be offended. The next day, the patient's telling me the joke. So I heard it while you're operating on me. The subconscious mind picked it up. Just the anesthesia kept them from having any pain. So I wonder if some people can actually hear under anesthesia. And she was thankful to me because I had said a few words to the other people that I didn't appreciate that. And isn't that interesting? So if your fibromyalgia, your neck pain, is related to lumbar degenerative disease, then the nocebo effect can ensure that your pain will continue. So if you say, well, this MRI has a 4-page report, all these little changes are causing your pain, the patient will submit to surgery. Like that. Never. Like that. They really will say no. So, but what other good things you can do to relax? Yoga is a good one, okay? So yoga is a multifaceted method of bringing consciousness to a state of stillness. You assume a certain position and you hold it. And it's a very good way of doing it. You're not lifting weights, but the muscles are having to hold you up. It's a good exercise. It quiets your mind. So it's from consciousness to think of nothing. So yoga can include meditation, diet, stretching, strengthening. It's a good activity to do. And believe me, I've done it over the years. So consciousness can be yoked or quieted down through the discipline of yoga. A good method. Maybe learn the Sun series in yoga. It's 1 through 10. You can pull that up on the internet. Exercises most people could do. I've done them for years. It quiets my mind very quickly. And sometimes to quiet the mind, begin to use a mantra. Ang Namo Guru Dev Namo is the most famous one there is. But like I said, you could name anything to kind of quiet your mind. So you're focusing just on that. Or maybe focus on a scene or something, walking down the beach, or what are other techniques? Deep breathing we talked about. The relaxation response is focus and mantra. Don't think of the past. Don't think of the future. A good book to read is Norman Cousins' Anatomy of an Illness. You know, he was very sick, and he used laughter. He would laugh for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours of total pain relief. He had cancer spread to the bone. Music, good for 30 minutes at least. 4 hours of pain relief. Andre Rousses, he's a famous musician in Europe. That was a friend of mine. And people there, like they were in a dream. They were mesmerized. They were dancing. They were listening to music. They were visualizing. And Dr. Schweitzer was a famous doctor in Africa, a German guy in 1910, 1920. And Norman Cousins went to visit him, actually. And Dr. Schweitzer demonstrated to him how he dealt with this group of natives standing there. It says a third of them, he had them teach dancing techniques to get them to exercise and yoga type thing. Another group, he taught them drumming and relax, and the other third he operated on. So he understood them. And Schweitzer had to be an excellent surgeon to operate, say, in Africa, 4 or 5 operations a day, not much anesthesia available. And I read about his life. I have a picture of him, actually. Someone gave it to my birthday. And behavioral therapy, sometimes counseling helps people. Medications, some people need medications. But the belief system has a lot to do with this. Like in Dr. Schweitzer's time, he described the voodoo effect. If they didn't want you in the tribe, for example, they had a witch doctor, and the witch doctor would point at you, and that was a known signal in the tribes that the person the finger went at, they believed they wanted them to leave the tribe and to die. And most of the time, it happened while they're pointing the finger, because pointing the finger, they believe they're supposed to die. Neurotransmitters overwhelmed their body, developed pulmonary hypertension, and the heart stopped. Mm-hmm. And that has been described in the scientific literature. Actually, one time I was in Boston, international spine surgery, 2,000 people. And the head of neurology at Harvard stood up there and talked about the voodoo effect. Very interesting. And after he's done, because I was writing a book on it at the time, I went up to him and said I was writing a book about it. I could talk to him for 15 minutes about it. And he said, "No, I'm on vacation, but you can make an appointment." The other guy said, "I just got the Harvard effect." Okay. But the point of it being, I was hoping he would explain the nocebo to all the spine surgeons sitting there, the natives we didn't know about. But I guess I was dreaming, okay? And so it's kind of interesting, but it happened to me. So music is the language of the soul or the psyche, where healing begins. And Albert Don Pablo, a famous celloist, I think, as he was getting older, he kind of curled up, became very stiff. Norman Cousins was visiting him, and they were going for a walk. But they had a piano outside. As he walked up to the piano, Don Pablo could barely play the piano, and then he started bum, bum, bum. By the time he got done, he was totally loose, banging away, playing fantastic music. Then they took a walk, and he was still loose. And slowly, when they came back, he again became extremely stiff. And that's the effect of the neurotransmitters, the hormones, the neuropeptides. Very interesting story. So I think, in summary, I think you now understand that this affects your whole body through neuropeptides, through hormones, neurotransmitters, autonomic nervous system. It's real that our gut makes most of our serotonin, our long-term feel-good hormone. So when, as a patient, you go see a doctor, or you're dealing with one of your relatives or with one of your kids, you got to keep this thing in mind. Could this be that they're under stress, for example, which is very common? Half the patients don't need the nocebo, that X-ray, well, we need to operate this right away. Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes you do, but 75% of chest pain is due to stress, not to little changes on your angiogram. So it's complex. Be open-minded, participate in your health care. I appreciate you listening to this. If I act a little passionate about this, well, I am, because I can keep you from having procedures done which can be risky. People can die from procedures they don't need, or take medications they don't need. So thanks so much for listening. You can watch my TV shows, FM 95.7, or see me at the pharmacy for free. And I do this because I love you. I'm a doctor, and I say namaste. If you see me, tell me your stories. Buy me a cup of coffee. And I'll tell you more information if you need it. Watch us anytime. We're on every week, Public Access TV, and I thank Public Access for that Monday about diabetes, 6:30, 6 o'clock, or Wednesdays. Thanks so much.